We're back, baby! I'm back at MNN. It feels good to be home. Welcome to Gethard Presents. The past hour of my life being here trying to set up this madness has been truly stressful, but it's one of the hardest times I've ever left. What we lack in money and prep time and fully thought through ideas, we more than make up for in humanity. We're in good hands tonight, comedically and romantically. I am a believer now. He's so charming, so funny, he makes it look effortless. She's relentless, she's funny, insane, inexplicable, very hard to handle. I'm glad that tonight, you, the discerning public access viewer at home, you get to enter one of these bizarre new worlds. People of the world, my name is Chris Gethard, but this is not the Chris Gethard Show. This is the Carmen Christopher, Christi Chiello, Martin Urbano, Josh Sharp, Robbie Hoffman, Joe Rumrill, and Rachel Pegram, Riley Soloner, Leah Bonham, Mary Houlihan, Greg Stone, and Anthony DeVito, Connor Ratliff, Claire O'Kane, Keith Haskell Show.
I'm tired sitting around the house. 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 Everybody wants to waste my time, and it makes me wanna lose my
Thank you so much for having me. That video was very strange to watch for me. I look so tired in it as I do today because I have a kid, so that's why this is my second Coke. I slept 4 hours last night, 2 of them on a hardwood floor while my son jumped on me at 3:30 in the morning. So thank you for having me, and that means we're gonna get the real deal answers today because I have no censor right now. Thank you so much.
Of course. Great to have you. Why don't you introduce everyone else?
Yes, I brought some friends with me. They're the other people who help make CGP happen. Thank you all for coming. It means a lot. Last time I was here, we did one for my old talk show, and it was really fun. I got electrocuted a bunch. I don't know if anyone was here. Probably not, because you would not have come back. And it means the world to have us again. So let's go ahead. I want to introduce us. We have a nice thing of some of the comedians that are part of the new project, and some of the people who make it happen. Like, for example, first up, the guy who produces everything with the show. You just saw all the shows, even from that teaser, that they all look very different and feel very different. And this is the guy who's responsible for making all that happen. He's my friend Jersey Dave, aka Dave Szarejko, ladies and gentlemen. So the Manhattan Neighborhood Network has been an incredible piece of my career, which kind of came out of nowhere. I never expected. Manhattan Public Access is like a truly beautiful bastion of creativity and free speech. And this is the guy at MNN who kind of facilitated this whole thing and allowed us to even come back and be a part of it. Greg Sutton, ladies and gentlemen. And next up, some of the people who have made the shows. We try to really give the comedians a sense of agency. This next performer is someone who has done, I think, 3 episodes so far, each of them fantastically different from each other, which is something I hope we get to talk about. Her name is Christi Chiello. She's amazing, everybody. Hello, Christi. And then... Welcome, Christi, really solid. And then this next guy tonight, he's about to do his third episode of his series. He's been very, very much a comedic ally of mine for many years, and he's doing a thing tonight at 11. You can watch it live. He's created a series that is this very beautiful blend of comedy and clowning and performance art and audience interaction, and it's really hard to describe, and it's the type of thing that I feel like I am proud that we are providing a forum for things like this. His name's Riley Soloner, ladies and gentlemen. He is the man behind Clon. Clon is half clown, half clone. Clon. You can see Clon Part 3 tonight. Hi, Riley.
Okay, Google. My name is Riley Soloner. I am a comedian living in Queens, New York, and I am Chris Gethard's 5th choice to be here today.
Not true. Not true.
5th choice.
I think it might have been 8.
I was raised in the East Bay in California. My destiny from my family, my own father told me my destiny was to one day live on a small piece of land and grow high-quality organic marijuana. But I said, no, I'm going to move to New York and become a businessman. And that is why I have combined cutting-edge Silicon Valley-style technology with one of the oldest technologies known to man.
Oh my God.
This is a clown nose. It's made of rubber. It's an Italian-style clown
Riley,
nose.
what are you doing
It's
right
given to me
What is
by
this?
Jean Taylor. She's my clown teacher from the Lincoln Center. My show, Clown, is a blend of science fiction and classic theatrical clowning.
Riley, please sit down.
Okay. Oh, no, wait, one last thing. I forgot. Sorry. I am asking you, Google, and you, YouTube, for $600,000. Now I will sit.
Shark Tank, your own personal Shark Tank, Riley.
Yeah, what do you want the money for?
Yeah, you didn't mention that.
I have a Google Doc that concisely lays out exactly what I will do with the $600,000 that I will show you if you send me the $600,000.
All right, all right.
Also, can I say we were at lunch in your cafeteria, and you guys have a pickle bar, and that's very impressive. That was probably the thing that impressed me most about this entire facility.
All right.
Pickle bar.
Yeah, what surprised me is that it's not. It's, first of all, yes, this is my voice. Second of all, what surprised me is that it's not like the Vince Vaughn, Owen Wilson movie. Does anyone know the movie I'm talking about?
Wedding Crasher.
What was, no, it's not that movie. What was the name of the movie?
The internship?
The Internship. It's different than The Internship. And I thought all Vince Vaughn movies were known for their accuracy. Okay, thanks for having me.
All right, so the promo is nice, but why don't we start by you telling us a little bit about CGP, because I'm not sure that really gave anyone a great idea of what's going on. Like, what's your
It looked
vision?
very energetic and exciting, though, so I'm happy for that. So basically, the bullet points are, you mentioned, had my TV show that we built on MNN, and over the years we attracted some attention, and we wound up being on 2 different cable networks over the years, which felt like a real victory, felt like we really built something. And because we built it via MNN, where we were allowed, we did 170, 160 episodes on MNN. So we were allowed to just go experiment, fail, and it didn't have earth-shattering consequences like most creative people run into. If you fail on corporate TV, they're going to yank your funding, they're going to cancel your show. So we were allowed to build it out in a way that let us figure out who we were 170 weeks in a row, which is unheard of for a creative person. So I came to value that more and more. And after our show got canceled, Greg and I wound up in touch shortly after, and we're trying to figure out something to do together. And I wanted to kind of take the experience I had and see if I could pass it off to other comedians, especially comedians who are like the generations after me, because I don't think comedians are very often given a platform and told, do what you want and we'll facilitate it, and if it goes poorly, we'll take the blame, you walk away. Like, my name's on it, which is not me trying to take credit, I promise you that. It's more saying, if it goes wrong or it's bad, people say, oh, that was that Gethard thing, not it was the Christi thing or the Carmen thing. So you can experiment and fail. And the one thought I always have in my head that I'm really trying to build towards, that I don't think we've totally established yet, is I always think about stories about like CBGBs back in the day in New York, and how you could just show up on any random night and people would go because they had heard CBGBs was cool. And then you go, and it's like you might see the Ramones and Talking Heads and Blondie on the same bill, and you can say you got there first before anybody else heard of them. And it's a cool thing to be a part of. And I really think the comedians that we're putting on are the people who you're going to be seeing on the shows you've heard of and on new sitcoms, and who are going to be writing the shows that you love in the next few years. And I'm hoping we can establish ourselves as like that breeding ground for talent.
Cool.
That's the basics.
Awesome. Well, so that's a nice segue into for Riley and Christi. As people who have hosted TGP and will be again in the future, how do you approach it differently from other types of comedy or similarly? Like, it seems like its own sort of thing. Like, what's your process?
I'll go first. For me, I'm a stand-up comedian, so I'm used to doing sets on shows that are, 10, 15-minute sets. So all different kinds of comics from different backgrounds have been on the show. So it's just been really amazing to have an opportunity where someone's like, okay, you have an hour to do whatever you want to do. And we have a little budget we can work with, which is like unheard of for all of us. So the fact that we have resources and some money and a team of all these people who have worked in television spearheading it, it's truly been the most exciting thing I've ever been a part of, because it's invaluable. There's nothing else like it. And as like a new comic, we were lucky enough to kind of get in on the ground floor, and now there's so many comics that want in on it because it's just an amazing opportunity to do whatever you want. And they tell you all the time, like, sky's the limit. They want us to be as out there as we can with our ideas.
And maybe because you're the person who's switched up your ideas the most, I would say, by far.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe you want to tell them, like, your most recent show was a celebration of New York.
Yeah, so my first show that I did was the show called Coochie Creek. And it was about...
You just said that at Google.
Coochie Creek. And it was really about, like, Coochie Creek was like my basement in my house growing up, where, like, I got horny for the first time. Where we all were, like, dry humping Nintendo chairs in our basement. So that was my first one, and it was really fun, and I had characters come in. We took phone calls that were about sexuality and puberty, and it was really fun. My second one, I decided to do a complete 180, and I did a whole show about rejection, and it was a talk show, and it was, I think, the most, like, vulnerable I've ever been, because I had a really rough year in the biz, and it was all about, for me particularly, career rejection, but everyone can relate, and it was very cool. And then my last one was like an ode to New York City. So I had like a pigeon on the show, and we did like a musical. Well, he was not a real pigeon, but I did a musical tribute, and I had my favorite comic on the show. We took phone calls. And a really cool, sorry, I'm like rambling, but the last thing is that something really, really cool about this is ways that we can involve the audience, which is very, very cool. There's a live audience there, but we can take calls and interact with people in real time who are watching from all over the world. So that's been a really cool element that I want to do more with, maybe like a choose your own adventure show.
That's next week.
That's next week.
Yeah, we're doing that next
Nick
week.
Nanny.
Are you seriously?
Nick Nanny's already doing that, yeah.
Oh, fuck.
God damn it.
Riley,
Back to Coochie Creek 2.
Yeah.
your response.
Well, as a collaborator with Chris on his show, and as someone who's just followed his career closely before that for about a decade now, his work really helped spark my imagination, comedy, theatrical comedy-wise, because there's a genre bending going on, and there's experimentation, whether through improv, audience interaction, bringing visual aspects, imagination into a comedy realm. And that's stuff that I was already just very into, and I saw Chris doing it in a different way, and I just kept kind of following along with him there. So when I got my own chance to do that, I just kind of wanted to expand on what I had seen him innovate. And so for me to bring in my personal flavor from the hippy-dippy circus performing arts summer camp world. And
That's a real thing that Riley attended for many years.
Camp Win a Rainbow, Wavy Gravy, Come on, who here's from California? Larry Brilliant, CEO of Google's philanthropy section. I don't know when he decided to stop working here, but Larry Brilliant. So basically, under the Gethard umbrella, there is a brand of comedy that basically means creative freedom. It means adding chaos to the mix. It means being authentic and true and daring and risky. And I really vibe with that. And so another $600,000 is that nowhere else could I pitch a show, get the pitch accepted, and then as cryptically, mysteriously as possible, promote the show. When I first told people I was doing Klon, I didn't say what the letters CLON stood for. I didn't say what the show was going to be, what kind of genre, what people should call in and talk about. I just said, this show is called Klon, and I hope you like it. And it just felt so fun to bring some kind of anticipation, some mystery to live television, a TV show.
So just a quick straw poll in the room. Who in here has ever watched public access television live?
Nice.
Cool. That's a good number of people. So
It's the best.
yeah, so one really cool thing I think that I'd love to hear your guys' takes on is like public access television is sort of the grandfather of like modern streaming culture. Like before I could go on Twitch and stream myself playing solitaire for 5 hours to no people. Like you could go on public access television, be given fairly high quality production equipment and just do whatever you want. Like in what ways do you think like streaming has like grown out of this and like what do they still have to learn?
Yeah, Greg, I feel like that's something you probably think about.
I think about it all the time because we run a television network which is quickly becoming obsolete, and trying to figure out how we pivot with providing the services that we do in this environment is something we do think about all the time. You know, I do think that the streaming culture has certainly evolved out of public access. I mean, and that's a very beautiful thing. But one of the things that we would like to see streaming culture continue to do is to create that sense of community that public access has created. You know, we are offering facilities and education and guidance and facilitation so that people can get their ideas out there. And that's what's so beautiful about Gethard Presents right now. When we first conceived of this, the show is exactly what we at MNN were hoping it would be. Exactly that. And that in talking with Chris, after moving on from the Chris Gethard show, really, I was hoping that he would, you know, I said, if you could do anything on public access, what would you do? And what I was hoping he would say was, I would like to introduce new comedians on a weekly basis and call it Chris Gethard Presents. And that's exactly what I had written down. So to be able to provide that playground and that collaborative space for people to learn, for people to fail, for people to succeed, that's something that we provide that I don't know that streaming culture can provide. But the intersection of the two concepts is, I think, where the sweet spot for creativity is going to lie as we go forward.
I also feel like, Dave, you can, like, one thing that's fun for us is, like, first of all, on public access, there's deadlines. Like, streaming, you have to create your own discipline. And I think the most successful people really do. Like, I don't get the sense, I'm 39 years old, I'm not watching Ninja play video games on Twitch all the time, but I do get the sense from what I've read about him, like, this guy has a regimented schedule. It also sounds like he plays video games 23 hours and 45 minutes a day in a way that's terrifying and must feel like he is living in a non-reality, but that's his business, not mine. But it's that discipline you have to install. Having deadlines gives you that. And then Dave I feel like one of the great joys that you get to experience is, like, for comedians, like, sure, you can live stream through Instagram if you feel like, Facebook Live. But when you show up in a TV studio and there's 4 cameras pointing at you, and you're someone who's aspiring to work in the entertainment industry, and you'd like to be on a television set, film set someday, it's like, oh no, that takes a specific type of practice. You get to read off a teleprompter, you get to take calls, you get to do all these things that you will be doing in your future career, and I don't know if streaming is the same exact jump. And then it's also like, comedians show up, and comedians are used to getting treated like dog shit, really. Like, you show up very often.
I love it.
Well, you're not getting paid, or you're getting paid $20 or 40 at the most, and then they show up at our studio, and you're like, emailing them first, like, where should we set up the lighting rig? How would you like the props arranged? When we're building your set flats, do you want them like this or that? And you feel people going like, oh wait, someone's actually giving a shit about my idea and facilitating it, which, again, I don't know that Facebook Live or an Instagram Live, you know, has that same sense of, oh, this is an actual idea and we want to execute it start to finish, and we want to do that at a level that's in a TV studio. And I feel like you're consistently seeing comedians be like, wait, you really wanna help me? Like, that's...
Yeah, it's one of my great joys.
Yeah.
Just like talking to different comedians and just seeing everyone's like thought process and how they communicate and how that's different. It's just such a big joy for me. And every single person is always surprised by, like, how much we give a shit, which is great. I mean, it's, you know, the whole crew that's there is there because they want to make something fun and different. And it's fun when we have a first time host kind of being like obviously they haven't thought about what the lower third graphic should say, and you know, if
or know what that even meant.
Yeah.
right? Yeah, sure.
They would say, oh, like, what do you want your lower third graphic to say? And I would literally be like, what is that? Because I didn't know. That's when Google, at the bottom of your screen, it'll say something.
A chyron.
Yeah, that clears it up. Chiron.
I
Chyron?
didn't mean to cut you off.
And there are like 15 people on this crew, at least. How many
It
people?
is more than that. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
probably like 20, 25 people.
And
Like,
they're all really, really nice.
they're
know,
great. I mean, they would.
it's
Yeah.
amazing.
If they didn't love being there, they wouldn't put so much effort in. So that's another great joy of mine. Is just like all these different people that want to work in production and maybe haven't had a job in production yet, that get to learn what lower thirds are also. Yeah, I think that the collaborative aspect of it is probably something that streamers don't really get. And the delegation of, you know, we have our graphics people, we have our audio people, we have, you know, our directors and whatnot. And I guess streamers probably kind of just have to all do all of those things in a smaller, you know, in their bedroom or whatever.
It's also free for us. Let's not forget. That's another value of doing it the way we're doing it. You get a 4-camera studio with live calling capabilities, a teleprompter, green screens.
Full lighting grid.
Free. You can just go sign up. It's free. That's nuts.
Anyone in this room?
Anyone who lives in Manhattan could go up there, sign up to take some classes, and you could have a TV show
I see you guys
relatively
looking
soon.
at
Like, there's a
each
waiting
other.
list.
And if you don't, you can. If you don't live in Manhattan, you can see me after, and maybe we can figure something out.
And there's
Classic
is
New
that.
York
It's
City
exactly that.
underground deal.
It is. Nothing's free anymore. And then Brooklyn has their own, Queens has their own, Staten Island has. There used to be a show on Staten Island Public Access called the Staten Island Comedy Show, which was like a legendary thing amongst New York comics because the guy who booked it was like kind of I never met him. I'm not trying to disparage him if he sees this someday, but he was known to be something of a character. So people would take a ferry to Staten Island and get there, and they'd be on public access TV with a maniac, and then they'd feel like they were kind of stranded because you had to take a boat home. And it's just like the best place. It's just the best. It's just the best, most free place.
So going off of what you were saying about the production stuff, every week it's a different show hosted by a different person. Like, what are the challenges of that, and what's the craziest stuff that people have asked you to do?
Just this week, we had a long series of emails from the guys doing next week's show, where they're like, we really want to book this competitive eater. Can you help us get this competitive eater? And we're like, we don't know this guy. We know this guy as well as you. If we're just cold calling this eater.
I assume they like, hey, this is my friend who is a competitive eater.
No, it's like,
and no,
they're like, this is a random competitive eater that none of us know. Can you get him? And we're like, probably not, you know? Then it got to the point where it's like, all right, we're going to Instagram DM him. Let's Facebook message him. I probably went to that weird message request folder. Man. And then it got to the point where didn't one of them buy a cameo from him to try to get his attention?
While stalking this person, trying to figure out where they are active, this guy was most active on Cameo. So I was like, listen, guys, if you really want to book this guy,
$30,
$36 to send him a message on Cameo.
Let him know what you're looking for.
Get his attention.
He can also wish your niece happy graduation. Like, so that's where we're at. Like, we're really, it's like this middle ground where it's like, we have a real studio we can offer to comedians. Also, we're trying to book guests through Cameo. That tells you that's the exact middle ground of what this project is. That sums it up.
Was this like a top tier competitive eater, like someone that people had heard?
No, I have no idea why, but they are so focused on this one guy.
$30 too.
$36 for him to send.
I was poking around on Cameo. You can get Chris Hansen for cheaper than that. And
really?
You know, it just occurred to me. Kobayashi is my landlord. So I could just like hit him up.
The best part of this email exchange, by the way, is I think it's like a 4-minute segment, and the guy wrote an email that was like, okay, so if I got 4 minutes, if you want me to do hot dogs, I can do about 36 in 4 minutes, but I'm gonna need a lot more water. If you want cheeseburgers, I can do 18, 19. I need less water though. I'm like, all right. Good to know, man. Good to know.
So you say it's like it's difficult for you, but like I got you here by going into an AMA you were doing on your stream and saying, "Hey, Chris, you want to come to Google New York?"
Yeah.
So,
and I was like, yeah.
Here we are.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced this is the real Google.
Would you like to elaborate?
What do you think this is?
This is an elaborate catfish.
It does have like this facility does feel like a more cheerful, color-schemed Death Star. You guys know that, right? That it has that vibe, with like scooters and droids. Like, are you just actively mocking me?
I'm mocking them.
Riley hates capitalism, guys. Hates it.
But I deal with it. 600 thou.
I think this is going really well.
Great. So that's something that you're trying. Like, given how weird and experimental CGP is, like, have there been any? Like, there must be a line somewhere, right? Like, have there been any pitches where you've just been like, no, we can't do that. No.
Yeah, we hate saying no. We just because I feel like no matter what the crazy request is, there's a public access version of it. We did a full like hour soap opera, and Mary Houlihan, who hosted that, was like, you know what I really love is if we could do like basically like instant replays from earlier in the episode and then play them back. It's a lot of equipment that we do not have. So like, no, that one's a no, but we can. But
that's because we don't have one of those trucks that they have at sporting events to edit on site.
Yes, that's a whole team of people that do that for the NFL or whatever, and we just don't have that. But we can come in at 8 a.m. that morning and tape those things ahead of time and then play them back in the episode.
Try to replicate them perfectly in the live episode so it looks like an instant replay.
Yes, that's the public access workaround of the instant replay.
I will say people have pitched ideas, and thus far, I there's no idea too crazy, but I've only really actively worked with people who I know their work, just to protect them and protect the show. It's just now getting to a point that I really love where it's like, oh, those two guys had a bit that went really well on Carmen's show, and now they're going to get their own show, and Annie's going to be on their show, and you'll remember that she hosted another show a month ago, and it's this web of people. So that is certainly the case as far as I do also want to say though, because it is crazy and the show is wild and we're saying like chaos and experimentation, but one of the episodes I'm most proud of, it's not just about who can be the craziest. Monroe Martin III, who is a fantastic comic who comes from the club world, which is known to be like less weird and experimental than like the Brooklyn shows. He did an episode that was just a very, very funny and very, very heartfelt episode that made a lot of comedy exploring how he grew up in foster care, which is a system that I think most of us go, that doesn't sound funny at all. But he said to me, he's like, every time I talk to someone else who grew up in foster care and worked in foster care, there's a lot of dark stories and grim stories, but also we laugh our asses off. And that's the other type of thing, because that was one of those ideas where he had kind of indicated, yeah, I've pitched this idea around, but people kind of aren't bold enough to take a chance on something that dark out of the gate. And it's like, well, come make it with us. And then one of the hopes I have is that someone will see how genuine that was and how funny it was and how it still dealt with foster care and its successes and failures in a real way. And then maybe somebody sees it and goes, oh shit, there is something here. And Monroe's been able to make it on his terms. Now somebody else comes along and goes, that's really awesome, man. Like watching you do art with an art therapist as you both talk about how to help kids sort out trauma, but also it's laugh out loud funny. I'm like, that's the type of thing that you can also do on public access. And it's not just, you know, people dressing up as pigeons and robots. There's a lot of that. You also have some foster care ha-has, though.
All right. In case people do have live questions, we're going to start taking them soon. So microphones on either side. If people want to start lining up, please start lining up. I'm running out of questions. Also, if they want to pitch any episodes of CGP, get up to the microphone.
Yeah, 100%.
These are the people to talk to. If you want to have your own episode of Public Access Television.
I'll just ask everybody, not at once, if we could all just, it's very unruly in here with this bum rush to the mics. So if everybody just take a deep breath and remember, we are all human beings with feelings and lives. I want everybody to stay safe emotionally and physically. You will all get a chance. And again, you turned into a pack of bloodthirsty animals. We got one.
And on the recording, no one will know.
What's up?
No one will know, because
now they will.
Now they will, yeah.
It's a Google Wave, right? Google Wave. Do you remember that?
Riley, it's feeling progressively more antagonistic.
No, it's not. We're buddies.
Round of applause if it is.
Come on.
Oh, wow,
I use
I'm
Google
wrong.
every day.
Some people.
I used maps to get here. I put everything in my cow. You can check my email right now if you wanted.
I use Keep.
Nobody knows what you're talking about.
It's the same stuff you were just talking about. If you're not getting aggressive towards them, you're certainly getting more aggressive towards me.
And that's another one of the great things about CGP. No. I can say whatever I want to this goon, and I'm going to have a great show tonight on his channel. All right.
Well, we got some questions.
All right,
so
yeah, two. All right.
Thank you for coming here. I love all the things you do. And my question is because Gethard Show was very well known for like having a very active fan base. I may have been part of it for a long time. And
thank you for that.
Yeah. I was wondering if like you feel that the fan base that is sort of forming around the new show is different because it sort of has different voices every week. Does it feel like some people are sort of drawn towards some of the episodes but not others, or is it like, I don't know, more diverse in terms of like what people like, or is it more cohesive because it's not run a person?
It's definitely less cohesive, but it's building in the right direction. I was really hoping that, because the Gethard Show had a pretty fervent cult especially by the end. And I was hoping they'd all kind of come with us, and they did not. And that's okay, but we thought that would be a good base. We need these numbers to go up, and if anybody here at Google, if you guys, like, you own YouTube, right? If somebody could just fudge our numbers, that would be great. Make us look better. But the fan base, I feel like the fan base is a little less cliquey. The Gethard show one was like people knew, because it was the same people every week, they started to like know everything about everybody's kind of lives and other projects, and it led to some clicks. And I feel like it because of the nature of the project, it's taken a little longer, but I think people are starting to pick up on what I was saying about I want to build a venue as much as I want to build a show. And I think people are starting to realize that. Like, for me, one of the transformative eras of my life was I started at the UCB Theater in 2000. And if you are a comedy fan, you know the Upright Citizens Brigade is like, it was the explosive place for comedians to come out of in the past 15 years. And I was there before that started. And I always think about how it hit a point. In the beginning, when I was there and I was 20 years old, you had to beg people to come to your shows. There'd be 12 people in the audience. Half of them would be your friends and family, people you knew in high school and college that you just like beg. I was lucky enough, I grew up in Jersey, so I'd like beg them to come. But then after a certain point, it was like UCB just has a good enough reputation that people are going to go, I got nothing to do tonight. There's tickets available for the 9:30 show, and this is a reliable place where I know I'm going to see something cool. And I think it's starting to get to that point, and that's the corner we really need to turn on this one, of people trusting, okay, Gethard picks people who are hard workers and funny. Dave has a whole gang that can execute their ideas well. And the comedians, one of the great things about the comedians is they all check in on each other's stuff. So very often somebody will be like, oh, I saw Riley do that. I got to go even crazier with my next one. Oh, Monroe did something that heartfelt. I got to cut even deeper. So hopefully that all starts to build into its own thing that's kind of different than the Gethard show and more about participating in the I'm trying to figure out how to like
menagerie
create. No, I really want it to feel like an online venue, like a digital presentation of a venue, and that's hard to do and that's hard to explain. But I really want to get there.
Yeah, I'll say too that they are so. I just want to say that they're so. There may not be a lot of that, but the fans of the show are really amazing, and they even do like this podcast we were talking about.
Yeah, we are trash people. They take every performer doing their upcoming episode of a CGP, and they find all of their links and their videos, and they just gush over the host.
Deep dives.
They're incredible.
And this is not a thing this is not a thing we created. On their own, they make a podcast that we have not authorized or asked for, where they will literally be like, so guys, this time's Riley, and we're gonna do a 10-minute segment on a YouTube video he did in 2007. It's like, where did you even find that?
Know all this stuff about me, and they're great. And some of the fans that come to the shows that I've hosted, they'll make these signs. I just want to say this. Someone will be like, "Go Christi," like really cool signs, and then one fan just made a sign that's, I think he was at the wrong show. He made a sign that said, "Make Sonic fucked up again."
These are beautiful people.
And so that just speaks to how awesome the fans are.
Hello. I think you were, right?
I think that was next, and then
yeah. Dave said for sure. He's mad that you tried to cut, even though you did not try to cut. Dave got weirdly salty about that.
I apologize to you, sir.
Building on your goal to make this feel like a venue, I'm wondering about the role of like New York City. I really want to know like how you think it would feel if you did it in LA, for instance.
It's funny. I mean, I've always, at this point, I've kind of made a game for myself of how long can I be in the entertainment industry and never live in Los Angeles. Like, I have nothing against Los Angeles. I'm just kind of like, somehow I keep meeting with some level of success, and I never had to go. I think there's a few things about New York. First of all, like I mentioned, UCB sprang up here, and that's for a reason. There's so many great stand-up venues, and that's for a reason. And there's venues that come up from time to time, whether it's like DIY music venues. And I think we have to remember in New York City, you can take subways at any time of night. You can get to stuff. easily. You can take cabs anywhere. You can drink until 4 a.m. So it's like we ask people to come out at 11 on a Wednesday. And for people who don't have traditional day jobs, they're like, yeah, cool. That's when my night would be starting anyway. You know, so New York has a vibe. You know, it is a 24-hour city, and it is 24-hour transportation. And I would also say, certainly not trying to slam any other institutions or imply, but I think Christi and Riley, you'd agree, for comedians and musicians in the past 5 years or so, there are a lot of venues that have closed and a lot of venues that were community hubs. In music, you know, if you are a music fan, you know, like Death by Audio and Shea Stadium, all these great underground music venues closed like right within the same year. And same thing, there's a great place in Brooklyn called The Annoyance that was a hub for a lot of the community we used, just closed overnight. So that's another great thing about MNN is it's been around forever, and they're going to have to pry it. I don't want to talk too much about the business structure, but Time Warner's going to have to pry it out of your cold, dead hands to get it back.
It's fine with me.
So I think New York is a place that lends itself to communities because of all the infrastructure in New York. And a lot of those hubs have gone away lately. So I hope that this becomes one of those things for the comedy community. And that was a good question. Thank you.
You were talking about live streaming. And yeah, there's definitely a point that live streaming is usually a solo affair. Maybe you'll have guests, but they'll be remoting in. And on the other hand, I know that this type of content is going away for various internal political reasons, but what about people who form networks on YouTube to assist each other with creating content?
I think it's super cool, and I think you're right that there's a lot of it, and I'm always impressed when I see it. I've also seen that Reddit has started doing some community-driven streaming that I think they're actually calling the Reddit Public Access Network. Like, they're making it very clear that it's a similar spirit. And I'm hoping that what we can do is, since we have a physical location and we have a studio that provides a lot of equipment that would be impossible for creative people who are coming up to ever afford to rent, that we can effectively sort of form what they're forming first, instead of having to send everybody sort of out into the wild west of the internet and then expect them to find each other. I think it's a real goal to sort of start with the hub, rather, because I know from creating stuff on the internet, oftentimes it's like you put a lot of time and effort into it and then you click send, and sometimes people find it and sometimes they don't, and then sometimes you find each other and sometimes you don't. So I think part of our mentality is we know who all the creative people are. We know who all the people are that are kind of lone wolves, and we can bring them together as a pack right out of the gate. So I'm not trying to slam streaming. In fact, we're really actively trying to use Twitch more and more, because I feel like that's exactly what you're talking about how there's been a really fantastic sense of community building and people finding each other. And we're actively kind of shifting a lot of our focus. No offense to YouTube. YouTube's great. It's hard to get people to watch an hour-long video in 2020, though, whereas Twitch is much more of a thing of like, oh, that channel's on, I'll just drop in and watch it for a while.
Yeah, and it's also appointment-based viewing on Twitch. Like, people will tune in and at the certain time when they know that their favorite streamers are on. And for us doing a live show, like, there's definitely something that doesn't translate as much. Like, there's a magic in watching it live where like anything could happen, the whole thing could fall apart, and that's kind of the fun. And watching it on YouTube afterwards is fun because we put on a great show, but the live aspect of it is definitely lost. So we're trying real hard to make Twitch, you know, even potentially kind of one of our hubs of this whole project. And a lot of that is because of this community-based, you know, networking that happens on Twitch. So I think your point is a great one, and we're trying to learn some lessons from other people that are been successful on Twitch. And I mean, that platform is kind of a public access. Like, everyone gets their own public access station on Twitch.
Yeah, we're not trying to imply that we're inventing that idea. I think it's more like we want to bring what we know about the comedy community and the grassroots side of that, and having some TV experience, because Dave and I both worked on the Gethard show, 47 episodes on cable, and then also actively steal from the most successful streamers and what they've done. There's no world in which I'm like, oh yeah, no, they haven't figured it out. It's like, no, let's take what we do and actively try to take what works for them and use it as well, and just all build off each other.
I mean, yeah, it sounds great to see streaming being used in that prepared fashion like that. In fact, listening to you speak, it now seems like public access television is kind of a mix of both models.
I think so. And I know even in the course of when we were at the Gethard show, MNN was not actively streaming their content. Now you can watch MNN. You don't have to be in Manhattan. You can watch it anywhere in the world. Every channel they have live streams as it goes out. So it is trying to think progressively. In the same, I remember the last time I was here with the Gethard show. I don't know if I should, they'll probably edit this out of the YouTube, but I remember talking about we're trying to make a homemade TV show and we're trying to get it through. And I was saying back then, I really feel like everybody has an iPad now and you won't need cable and this and that. And I feel like that's becoming more and more true. And I remember some people in the audience coming up to me afterwards and being like, there's like about 3 TV old school moguls. And yeah, when they die, it's all streaming. And I was like, whoa, whoa, you guys know what's gonna happen in 5 years. And you name, I won't say them because it'll freak them out, but you named names to me. They were like, when these 3 people behind these 3 media conglomerates
Colonel
are dead.
Sanders.
Yeah, Mr. Peanut, they got Mr. Peanut already.
Ronald McDonald.
Yeah.
Oh, guys, by the way, if you ever look at a deck of cards, ace, king, queen, jack, Arby's, Burger King, Dairy Queen, Jack in the Box.
Wow.
What is that about?
All right. Thank you for the thoughtful questions. Do we have one over here?
Wow.
Should we just alternate at this point? We've only got 8 minutes, so we'll try to keep it tight.
I'd be remiss if I didn't just say thank you, because I grew up in the oranges and.
But you did. Which orange?
South Orange.
I was gonna guess.
You did have.
What's that?
How did you?
It was either because you would have said West Orange if we were from the same town.
And then and we don't have to talk about the other part. Yeah. Just what you did for just making not light, but making humor out of mental health. I really appreciate that, and I've always wanted a chance to say thank you to you. So even though that guy kind of took my question, I had to continue and talk to you.
No, that's awesome, and I'm happy to help. Happy to do my part. And
watch it. It's real funny.
Thanks. And also, everybody, just so you guys know, South Orange and Maplewood are a merged town. I don't know if you read it in the Times, baby, but Maplewood's the new Brooklyn.
Yeah, if you're in Brooklyn.
Maplewood. Was that as insane?
And you got a kid and you can't afford it.
Yeah, and people who've lived there gotta bounce out to Morris County now. But was that insane to you as well when you read that article? I was like, Maplewood's great. It's not Brooklyn.
Everyone I know is there already. So like, what was it? The Times? It's always like 7 behind. So I knew that already. But yeah, I mean, it's a good place.
It's good. It has a bookstore and a couple restaurants.
Didn't they invent Ultimate Frisbee or something?
They did invent Ultimate Frisbee. Your high school.
Yeah.
Did you go to the public schools?
No, I went to Schechter.
In West Orange?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, hey.
Gregory Avenue, I
think. You guys know that Gethard grew up in Greenwich, Connecticut, right?
Okay. So good to talk to you.
This is all show.
Hello.
Did you go to Bunny's ever?
What's that?
You ever go to Bunny's?
I haven't been to Bunny's. Are you watching Seton Hall this year, though?
Rutgers.
I went to Rutgers.
When? Dude, can we just hang out? You want to grab a beer? I don't know much.
I don't drink anymore, but
Gethard was penny farthing down Connecticut Road when you guys were in diapers.
We'll catch up.
Yeah, word up.
Yeah.
Yeah, but by the way, they're both crushing it.
Did you go to Rutgers as well?
Yeah.
So did he. We all went to Rutgers.
04?
College Ave. I was 02.
What up?
We were there at the same time?
I hope you didn't like date my sister or anything.
Who's your sister?
You might have.
Was she into like the theater and comedy scene in New Brunswick?
What's up?
Was she into like the theater? I like that you're covering the mic as if this conversation's now private.
I'm really worried to go deeper into that because
we'll talk afterwards. We'll talk afterwards.
But let's go. Okay, so you know what? I took up too much time. I don't need to ask you.
Awesome. Good to talk to you. Hello. Thank you for coming.
Hi.
And we have 5 minutes left, so let's.
So I actually am a UCB improver.
Oh, nice.
And actually, I had just left the theater, and one of the reasons why I left was the severe lack of diversity in women and race. And I'm standing in front of a panel of all-white comedians.
I wanted to mention that. I forgot to mention at the top. Thank you for that.
I mean, you forgot after an hour of talking.
I did.
So I wonder if it's a top concern.
Oh, you are right. I promise you, I was going to make a joke about how this is particularly white panel. I totally forgot. That was wrong of me. You're correct. It's a big problem in comedy. All of my work, I was at UCB for the first 12 years of my career, and I think my work, if you would look, when I look back at the old Gethard show, we were viewed, I think, as a very progressive thinking show, and I look at it and I'm like, white comedians, white audience. I'm like, how were we ever viewed as any sort of progressive in 2011, 2012? It makes no sense. I will say, I wanted to mention, if you watch the CGB project and go through our episodes, I'm extremely proud of the way we have not just looked in the corners of the comedy world I came from at UCB. I think anybody who is looking for diversity would be psyched to see the way we spread it out.
Yeah.
And
Watch any one of my episodes. They're very diverse.
Yeah. All the comedians are actively inviting the other comedians they love, and it's spreading things out in a beautiful way. And I'm happy about that. And I also will tell you, I was at UCB and I was a decision maker there. And I remember being a decision maker at auditions where I was one of 4 white dudes in the room making the decisions back in 2007, 2008. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't know that was a problem when I was 26, 27 years old. And I can look back now and realize that probably chased away a ton of talented people, and it sucks. So I will say that you're right. And it did take me an hour too long to bring it up. But if you click through the episodes we've made, I think you will see that I really am trying to put my money where my mouth is on this one.
Thank you.
Also, let's talk about UCB when we're not being recorded. Not that we shouldn't talk about now, but there's much to discuss.
I will also say that I was Gethard's 5th choice today because other comedians that would have made the panel more diverse are more successful than I am and had to go get paying jobs today.
I will say that I did try to represent some of the diversity we have, but people are either their day jobs or they've booked entertainment work today. That is true, but I don't want to say that because I don't want to tokenize anybody, but I did actively try to bring in some people who weren't as white as we are. I promise you. I promise you.
And me, I am the white.
So
tried doing something about it. And
hello.
This is a question for Riley.
Hi.
Have you ever rigged cage match in favor of a less worthy comedy wrestler? And if so, how could you?
Wow.
Okay, wait. Comedy wrestler or improv team?
We all go for the comedy wrestlers.
Wait, no. Cage match, guys, hi. Cage match is an improv show where the intermission is comedy wrestling, characters fighting, but the votes are for improv teams. Oh, because are you speaking because I used to operate as the referee, Robot Riley?
Yep. Tilda Swinton's cousin.
Yeah, it's all rigged.
Tilda Swinton's cousin.
Tilda Swinton's cousin.
Yeah, I pick my favorite. I call it right down the middle, and then the guy that hands me a bigger wad of cash. Remember, guys, I'm all about the money. Yeah, man. Cage match, best improv show in New York.
Deep cut. Can I also say, you mentioned Tilda Swinton's cousin. I was once at the Russian baths in the East Village, and obviously when you go in a sauna, you can't wear glasses. And I went in the sauna, and someone entered, and I was like, oh, wow, Riley's here. What a small world that he would be the same. And I was just about to lean over and say hi, and I realized I did not have my glasses on, and it was steamy in the room, and it was, in fact, Tilda Swinton. That's a true fact.
She's an inspiration. She's amazing. Michael Clayton, I've tried watching it a couple times. Fell asleep, had to return the DVD. This was a long time ago.
What an amazing note to end this thing on. You plugging Michael Clayton.
Michael Clayton. Does anybody, I don't know, does anybody want to
go get some pickles at the pickle bar?
I think that's the time we have.
Yeah.
I do want to end with saying Riley's doing Clon 3 subtitle that I don't remember.
The Song of the Summer. Not only am I bringing you a robot clown show tonight, Me and my team wrote the song of the summer, and we are debuting it tonight. It's an earworm, guys.
Who are some of the other comedians?
We got Justin Angermeyer, the former owner and operator of Extremely Serious Wrestling. We have David Ray Martinez, also known as Christi Chiello's Sky Daddy, Jesus Christ. We have Yuri Ryback, a.k.a. Yuri Beats, an amazing music producer doing all of the sound effects and music for the show. We have unpredictable audience participation. So if you want to show up, you might be a part of the action. And and then, you got me.
Thank you so much for having us, sincerely.